Hello, everyone. Hello. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I can't shout. I'm losing my voice. So that might be a good thing for you. Welcome to dev.talk. I'm Mark Oliver. I'm the organizer and your host tonight. So if there's anything wrong, please come see me. If you like it, also come see me. I've just got a few bits of housekeeping to go through before we get started. So let's deal with that. We're going to do some housekeeping for a few minutes, and then we're going to have a talk, and then we'll have some refreshments, and then we'll have a talk, and then we'll have a quick close, and whatever time we've got left before 9 o'clock, we'll do some networking. All right, there's a lot of friends in the room, and they're all going to be annoying, especially that one over there. Speaker number 2, I would hasten to add.
So rude.
Yeah, sorry. Do I need my placard again? So the event finishes at 9 o'clock. We are going to finish quite promptly because we need to leave the building. So this event doesn't happen without some supporters, and there's 3 important ones. There's a Reconnect conference who give us cool lanyards. They give us access to Eventbrite and a whole bunch of other things and a lot of moral support as well. A bit more about Reconnect at the end. There's Just Pick One UK, the famous YouTuber that's in the room, who's just hit 100 subscribers on our YouTube channel, and that's a big deal. So do check out Just Pick One UK if you enjoy cruising or National Trust properties or anything unusual. And obviously Patch, that's where we are. This is a cool co-working space. So if you want to come and try it, sign up to the newsletter. There's a QR code, I think, out on the bar. And you can sign up for a free day to come and actually experience it. I've been around the tour. It's a funky place. So speakers, we have 2 tonight. We have Desmond, who's sat here at the front. Hi, Desmond. Who's going to take us through his journey in building a city-based maze game using ML5JS and open source APIs, which is quite a mouthful. But it's a very cool project, which he's going to take us through. And then we got the bane of my life. You can tell the people who know are in the room whether they agree. My good friend Seemin Suleri, who is going to take us through her lessons from domain-driven design transformation. So first up, we've got Desmond.
Journey building a city-based maze game using ML5JS and open source APIs. So let's get into it. My name is Desmond, as you already know. I'm a software engineer, and I'm currently a student at Bournemouth University studying cybersecurity and human factors. And the reason why I'm here today is because my team and I built a maze game based on real cities. So my team and I built a maze game based on real cities. And what's interesting about this is what you would find out at the end of this talk, or before the end of this talk. So how it all started. So we got an email inviting us to participate in an AI hackathon. It's my first hackathon in Bournemouth, so it was cool for me. And the goal of the hackathon had a few rules, and one of them was that we should just be creative. We should be as creative as possible, right? And we had to use P5JS, and we had to use any form of AI to enhance whatever we are building. So imagine a scenario where you had the ability to build anything and you have unlimited access to a corpus of knowledge. So I consider AI as a partner, a huge corpus of knowledge that you could ask any questions. It gives your building ability, you become like a superhuman, essentially. So that's what I'm trying to say. So my team came together because we decided that we were going to build a maze game, or we decided to build a game. So we just found ourselves somehow during the introductory session, and everybody on the team was there, and they decided that we also wanted to build a game. And we chose to build a maze game. So why this is interesting is because we figured out that a maze game could be the only, or supposed to be the only way we could stand out. my team was made up of individuals who were not technical, right? So we had just one technical person and somebody who was an enthusiast or a tech enthusiast. And so it was challenging. How do we build something in a scenario where we had other competitors who were computer science majors who had more experience than we did. So something that we could relate to it was a maze game. So we decided that we were going to build a maze game and it would help us stand out. So why this maze game was interesting, like I said, is what we would find out as we progress. So our first iteration or our first idea was a simple maze game, and it was based on a multidimensional array of a binary multidimensional arrays of ones and zeros. So the zeros represent the path and the ones represent the walls. So how do we then integrate this into, or how do we incorporate AI to do this? The first idea we had was to call open AI's APIs, right? And get OpenAI to feed us this binary data or this multidimensional array. But each time we did that, the only response we got back was an array that had dead ends. So it wasn't essentially a playable maze. We only get things like it goes in a circle or something. It wasn't, I could have gotten the picture, but I didn't have it anymore. So that was one problem or one challenge that we had faced trying to use AI to build something like this. So we moved on to the next stage. So we decided to try something smaller. We took pictures of existing maze games and decided to feed it to the AI to replicate it, to see how it can improve on it and make it more complex. So we can go on Google, take a picture, upload it to the model, ask the model to give us feedback and convert that image into binary like this. And we could turn it into a maze game. But that also failed. So then we just got tired and we decided to do something small like this. This was our first iteration of the game. And it was just a basic game that allowed you to navigate, move around corners, and consume obstacles. More essentially like Pac-Man, if anybody has played Pac-Man. So there was really no depth to it. So when we thought about this, if we presented this, it would not make any sense. And it was very basic, as you can see. So we decided to change things up. But it's worth mentioning that while we're trying to change things up, we came up with another idea that we felt like we might have presented as well, which was body pong. So I'll just play a short video of the idea we came up with before I get up to this.
Okay, so how much well, AI is kind of we're going to tweak it a little bit to make sure that it's a bit more accurate. So basically, we come up with something called body form. It's like AI versus person, but we're trying to make it a two-person thing. So you have a ball, and you go like that, and you go like that. Basically, this is how it's supposed to look. Yeah, it's turned like this. So the camera up there is detecting me at the moment, so it's going to detect my right hand, as you can see. It's not accurate, like if you're going down, it should go all the way down, but I have to go down to, yeah. So this is how you're going to, yeah, there you go. So it still works, but it's not.
So the idea around this was essentially ping pong that you play with your body. But the next iteration on this was supposed to be integrating like WebSockets and making it multiplayer. But we also felt like the idea wasn't really as good as we thought. So we just let this one slide. Then we progressed to the next stage, which was building a maze game on a map, because we thought about what could we possibly do. That's when the idea of building a maze game that would work with real world maps came in, right? So do we build the maze game on a map or from a map? So the idea essentially is this. A maze game is essentially parts and obstacles, right? paths and obstacles, and an endpoint. Maps also have a similar thing. They also have paths, they have obstacles, which are the buildings. So why don't we turn an existing map into a playable maze? That was the idea. But how do we approach this? That was the challenge. So the first idea was to get a picture of the map, just like before, a picture of a map of a city, feed it to an AI model, and ask it to send us a binary as well. Well, sorry, a multidimensional array as well. But it was too complex. In fact, we paid for OpenAI's API, and we ended up spending close to $5, and we didn't achieve anything. And so we just realized that it wasn't doable that way. So another method could have been using Google Maps APIs, but it was expensive as well. So that's when we decided to use AI to solve the problem. So we asked ChatGPT to give us recommendations on APIs that we could use to solve this problem. Are there any open source APIs? And ChatGPT gave us a recommendation of OpenStreetMaps API. So OpenStreetMaps is built by a community of mappers that contribute to these things regularly. And they help maintain the data about roads, cafes, buildings around the world. And a lot of developers use it to build their apps, and it's free. So you can learn more about OpenStreetMaps from openstreetmaps.org about. So you can also view the documentation from this page. So essentially, if you want to use OpenStreetMaps, you could use it with a hosted link on your HTML, or you could install it via npm, any package manager as you want. Okay, this is leaflet as well, sorry. Yeah, so the documentation for OpenStreetMaps, that I haven't gotten to leaflet yet. So documentation for OpenStreetMaps is available from openstreetmaps.org. So the problem with OpenStreetMaps is OpenStreetMap gives you the map. It gives you a visual representation of the map, but you essentially can't do anything with just a picture of a map. So how do we build a game on top of the map? That's where we had another challenge. And to solve that challenge, we also asked ChatGPT, which is the huge corpus of knowledge. And it gave us another suggestion, which was leaflet.js. Now, leaflet.js is a library that allows you to build dynamic maps, or essentially annotate on maps. So you could draw points on the map, or you could redesign the map. That's what leaflet.js allows you to achieve. And you can install it via a CDN or a link, or you could install it via npm. So that's what we did with leaflet.js. And you could also get the documentation from here if you have access to the slides. So this is an example, a snippet of how we implemented leaflet.js. So what it does is that you can get the coordinates, and you could, first of all, you have a DOM element that you want to use, and the map will be placed within that DOM element, which is, in this case, map. So L is available from leaflet, is an object that's available from leaflet.js, and you can pass in the coordinates and the zoom level, which is 20 that you can see there. Then we are now fetching the map. So we're fetching the map that we're going to use. This could be any map. We're fetching the map from OpenStreetMaps, as mentioned before. And then we're fetching the map from OpenStreetMaps. Then we're adding it to our DOM, which is on the map. So that's how we got something like this. So leaflet.js allows you to essentially, after drawing this, you could also place icons. You can modify the map as much as you want to modify the map. So yeah, leaflet. So I have a code pen. I have a code pen example that I would love to. Can I? Yeah. A practical example of leaflet.js. So in this case, I have two annotations here on the map. One is a pointer, and the other one is a circle, very small circle. And you can see the same process here. Okay, yeah. So you can see the same process here, where I first of all define the ID of the DOM element I'm going to use, which is map, and I fetch OpenStreetMaps, and I'm adding a marker to the map. I specify the coordinates because it's a real map, so I have to specify longitude and latitude on the map. But in this case, I did not provide the zoom level, so it defaults to its default zoom level. Then I designed this circle here, which is what you're seeing here, and I add it to the map. So essentially, it's fairly straightforward to implement. So that's the reason why I'm showing this demo. So if we go back to the slides. Now, the next technical challenge was making the map navigable. How do we, so now we have annotations on the map, we have these icons, but how do we make this player move from point A to point B? So that was a technical challenge. And the first idea we had was essentially building a game and using the map itself just as a picture, as a background, because it was kind of hard to get this to work, right? The second idea we had was, how do we fetch the data from OpenStreetMaps and convert that data into points that we could use? So I asked ChatGPT once more, and it gave a recommendation, because we're free to use AI, so you could always ask the questions. So it gave a recommendation that we could use another API called Overpass. Now, Overpass API is available from OpenStreetMaps as well. But the difference is that Overpass gives you the data of the map, not the map itself. So it gives you the data on highways, streets. So it gives you data in form of nodes. So you can imagine it like a river, right? And you have like stones within the river. So you like stepping stones, you can jump from one point to another. So what they've done is that they've mapped out highways as those node points. So you can move from point A to point B, but instead of just having a stretch, so they have different points on the map as nodes all over. So we have different nodes, we have different pathways, and they're all interconnected. So when we fetch the data from Overpass API, we get those nodes. And so, yeah, we get those nodes and we convert those nodes into the map. But this is what the request looks like. Overpass has their own syntax. They have, I think it's called OSM query language. Yeah. Yeah, Overpass query language. So it was quite confusing at first. The documentation as well, you can find it here, and you'd see similar things. It was quite confusing at first, but yeah. One suggestion would be, if you want to get this done, most AI models already understand the query language, so you could just tell it what exactly you want to fetch from the API, and it would construct the query for you. So we just made a request, basic fetch requests, and we got a response back. And this is what the response looks like. This is an example of the response. So this is an example of the query in more detail. So this is what the query does. It finds all the highways within a particular location and recursively gets all the nodes. So this syntax here is for recursion. So who would have thought that? Yeah. Yeah. So this is the example of a data that you get from the request, the response you get from the request. So you have a way and we have a node. So a node, like I mentioned, is a point on the map. So like the analogy of a water body, I have different stones. So that's what a node is. While a way essentially is describing how the nodes are linked together. So like, yeah, you can see a way has an array of nodes at different points, yeah, along the map. So we had to process the data we got from Overpass, right? And what we did was that we converted this array of objects of nodes and ways into nodes and edges. So essentially, it's the same analogy, right? Essentially, an edge is like the line on the map, right? So let me go back. So this is, yeah. So these lines that we've drawn out here is connecting all the nodes together to form an edge on each pathway. That's what we just did here. So yeah, so that's essentially what this code is trying to do. So it gets it, it turns it, because at the starting of the code, the code base is on GitHub, so it's available. Anybody that wants to look at it in detail. So at the start of this code base, we have edges and node objects that are defined as empty objects, and we populate them from this code block where we have to use a loop and get through, find out if it's either a way or a node, then add those nodes, organize them by their IDs, and also do the same thing for edges. So we now have nodes and edges, and that's how we process it. Then we link it together and we draw the blue line that you see here. Yeah, we draw the blue line that you see here on the map. So that's the reason why, yeah. So we are using leaflet.js as well. So you can see leaflet polyline. So we now draw the blue line with a width of 2 and add it to the map. So that's essentially how we just processed the data and added it up onto the map. But we've done that now. We've gotten different nodes. We've gotten different ways. But the next challenge now was, how do we make the players move from point A to point B? That's where the second challenge came in. So making the icons move around the map. This is not visible. I thought it would be visible. But essentially, we had to use ML5JS. So ML5JS is a library that is built on top of TensorFlow, and it gives you access to machine learning algorithms. So one of the machine learning algorithms that we used for this was hand pose. And it's ML5JS makes it easy for you to use machine learning algorithms on the web. Like, makes it easier to use machine learning. All you have to do is just import this, and it's already available. You then have access to an ML5 object that gives you access to these libraries. So back to this. Let me just go forward. I'll come back to this. Right. So we made use of hand pose. So hand pose allows you to, it tracks your fingers and tracks their movement. Or it doesn't really, yeah, it tracks your fingers in space in real time and gives you a response of their location. Yeah. Then what we did now was we set up hand pose. We also set up a video stream so that the user can see in real time how their hand is moving and how they can direct the player from left to right. And this is straightforward on how to set up hand pose. So we already have the ML5 object that we have imported previously, and you pass in the stream to ML5 hand pose because it takes in only 2 parameters, which is the video element and the model that is model ready. Then it gives its response as predictions, and we use those predictions in this context. So let me show you this. Okay. Yeah. So it gives us predictions of angles of the hand tilts and all. So I created a short demo that allows anyone here to try out ML5 and also look at a code implementation of ML5. So if you could scan it and test it out now. It takes less than 5 minutes to try out. Anybody wants to try it out? You see how, yeah. Don't worry, it's not anything malicious. If you notice, you have the infinity stones in your hand. Yeah, then you can snap and watch what happens. Yeah, so probably people have started disappearing. But yeah, so the idea of this is that ML5JS hand pose allows you to track your hands, and it gives you feedback on the angles. So it can track your individual fingers, but in our case, what we did is that we try to track the tilt of the middle finger, because the middle finger is the index. It tells you, it tells you where you're pointing towards. So in our game, if you could point to the left or point to the right, point down. So that allows you to point to make the direction or give the direction that you want to go to. So that's hand pose. Yeah, that's hand pose. So I would want to now demo the maze game that we actually built, because I've been talking about it, but I haven't really shown what the maze game actually is. So let's see. So you could pick a city, any city, anybody, Bournemouth. Bournemouth. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so we realized that it was challenging for users to initially play the game. So we put up a training sequence that allows you to first of all get used to moving. Oh, I think it's still closed. Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's open. Oh, so it allows you to move left, right, then, so essentially control, so you get used to the controls. When you're done, then you can start the game. Why is this? Okay, yeah. Then you can start the game. So it's essentially like a zombie game, essentially, but yeah. So now allows you to move.
Conway come down off Seemin.
So yeah, so the reason why I demoed this was to, so I'm going to explain in short terms how we actually got the icons to move from point to point. So essentially we are changing, in the background, we're just changing the current node. So we have a current node essentially a current node state that is constantly changing. But to the user, it's just animating that the player is moving. So let me go back to the data so it makes more sense.
Presumably these nodes are very close to each other.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are. They actually are. Yeah. And the API gives us data of neighbors. So we could always calculate. So because it gives us data of neighbors, it also gives us data of longitude and latitude. Mathematically, you could calculate angles from longitude and latitude, right? So when a player moves his or her hand at an angle, ML5JS gives us prediction of the angle of tilt. And with that angle of tilt, we can determine what neighbor or what closest neighbor is at that angle based on the latitude and longitude of the map data. So yeah, I think that should be in slide somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, this is it. So we get the angle based on the latitude and longitude of the of that current node, right? So this is the section that I'm talking about here. So when we have gotten that, we can now find out what neighbor is closest to that, and we can determine. Okay, let me calm down. ML5JS gives us the data in radians. So with that information, you could get the direction based on the radiance that is sent back from ML5GS. And we could determine the angles, whether it's moving up, left, right, up and down. Yeah. Then from that angle direction, we could get the next node, essentially. Then all we have to do at this point is to change the determined next node to the current node. That's what moves that player from point A to point B. So it's the same principle that allows the zombies to chase after you, because they keep calculating your current longitude and latitude and seeing the angle. Essentially the same thing, like they get your current longitude and latitude, they see the neighbors around them, and they see the angle that is closest that would direct them towards that neighbor. So because of this, it's not perfect. So they get stuck sometimes because the nearest neighbor, they can't see beyond the first nearest neighbor. So that's one of the challenges or the things. So we didn't have a lot of time to fix all these problems. It was just a short hackathon. Yeah. I think, yeah. So now that's almost the end. Though. So what did I learn from this? I learned that first thing I learned was if you get stuck, you should try out something else that's more fun. So that body pong was actually fun because we played it ourselves and we enjoyed it, but we didn't push it forward. So I think the second thing was, I had this fear for AI. I had this fear like AI is going to replace all software engineers because, I still have the fear, but but what I learned from this is that using AI can actually allow you to be more creative because you have limits on the things you know. So my knowledge is based on my experience, and I'm only limited to the things I can experience. So I don't have all the experience because I haven't experienced other things, right? But with AI, it can enhance what I know. I already have the creative spirit, so all I need to do is just ask it, tell me what I need to know, and I'll take it up from there. AI is not perfect. In fact, most of the times, the recommendations it gives me, I have to go back and do additional research. And even code sometimes that it gives, you have to go back and rework it. You can't just take what you see because it's not perfect. It doesn't have the full context of what you're, especially for complex. So this is really complex because ChatGPT couldn't give me this at once. You could try it. It wouldn't give it to you. Like, it's really complex. Maybe the O1 model might try, but it comes out with a lot of bugs, right? So you have to have different, yeah. Is that for me? Okay. So you have to have a different context. So that's what I learned from the journey. So yeah, that's it. Any questions? If you have any questions, listen to this.
Yeah, I just wondered how long your hackathon, how long did it take?
I think it took, now I don't even remember. I think it took like three or 4 days because it was at the end of the week that we made a presentation at the hall. So I think it was a week. Yeah, because it was a research week. So essentially the entire research week. So it was like 5 days. Yeah, 5 days.
What did you enjoy the most out of the whole process to do?
What did I do?
What did you like to do the most
What did I like to do?
out of that?
Maybe I'm not understanding your question. Do you mean during the hackathon or after the hackathon?
Out of the whole project, what did you enjoy the most?
What I enjoyed the most, it was the idea of implementing something it was the implementation process. That's what I enjoyed the most. Like from the ideation down to for me, it was fun because it was my research week, right? So it was supposed to be a time. In fact, when I made a LinkedIn post, I said it was supposed to be a time where I was supposed to research, and I took it as an opportunity to rest. And this is what I did while resting. So I haven't been in a hackathon in a very long time. So it was really enjoyable because I got to build something that, not something I was told to build, but something I just felt like I just had the idea and it just worked. And everybody was game. I say game, everybody was on board with it. And yeah, so I enjoyed the creative process. That's what I enjoyed. Yeah.
kind of run out of time for that.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent. You've got about 15 minutes to have a chat outside, and then we'll get on to the final talk. I'm sure you're all going to swamp Desmond with questions. Great. Thank you. Thank you for coming back or staying. So we've already had our one talk by Desmond, who I have to point out that was his first talk ever. I'm now going to turn you over to somebody a little more seasoned who spends a lot of time.
Never a good thing when you call seasoned.
Never shuts up. My good friend Seemin Suleri.
Now we're not friends anymore, guys.
No, who's VP of Engineering. Thank you, Seemin.
Hello. Hello, everyone. I hope that you're all warmed up for this talk. It's not going to be as fun as Desmond's. I haven't got zombies in it, but hopefully it will be enjoyable. So this is kind of linked to the company I work for. I'm going to tell you a little bit of their story. And in order to understand the bit of transformation journey that we went on, it is important to understand that company as well. So I want to tell you really the background stuff. And because Mark only gave me 20 minutes, so hopefully we'll be able to go on that journey together. By the way, I've included some photos from different things at Prima. And this, what you see, is our massive event, the winter party we had in December, which is got about 800 people there. So it was a huge, huge event. But anyway, so you'll see some photos of Prima here and there. First of all, that's me not touching my chin here. But normally I love to show people these kind of photos because normally when I'm working, I work from home predominantly as a remote employee, like a lot of people nowadays are. And they're like kids running around. I normally have my hair all over the place. So I like these photos because they don't show the real picture, okay? I work for a company called Prima. I'm VP of Engineering. At the moment, I have been there for the last 2 years, just over 2 years now. The rest of my career has been around Dorset, so I work for a number of companies around here, and now working for a sort of like a global company. This is also a very low-res image of one of the other companies. So I'm also a founder and now non-executive director of something called Zeus Foundation. Zeus Foundation is a charity that works to provide free education for children in Pakistan. That's where I'm originally from. I grew up in Pakistan. I came to the UK, actually in Bournemouth, to do my master's at Bournemouth Uni. So where I met my husband, and then I never left, basically. So in addition to that, when I was working for different companies in around Dorset, sometimes it felt really lonely because a lot of the times I was literally the only woman who was in the department. And even though, that basically means the men were great with me, because I was the only girl and everybody was awesome. But one of the things is that around social circles, they tend to form around gender boundaries. And so I was often the one left out where all the boys were having fun. And so I felt like there was a need for some sort of structure, and I kind of promised myself that I'll do something about it. So I co-founded Women in Tech Dorset, which is still going really strong and having events and stuff like that. So if you see their work, please support. I'm also the co-founder and now, running director of Reconnect. You'll hear a little bit about it towards the end of this event as well. Reconnect conferences, when we had no tech conferences down here, we decided to do something about it because people were like, it's too expensive, it's impossible, nobody blah, blah, blah. And we're like, no, we'll do it. So It's just for the community, by the community kind of thing. So we'll tell you a little bit more about it. So let's start. This was a part also of the event that I'm talking about. So I want to tell you a little bit about Prima and their story. So in 2015, that's where the company was founded, and they got 8 million investment for like a little startup. There were about 10 people who came together and wanted to form this business of doing insurance a bit differently. So this is an insurtech startup. They started off in Italy, based in Milan, and this was already the founder was already known to the investors because he had founded a number of really successful startups in Italy already. But this was something big. They got a good amount of investment there. And they started off building this little company. And they, initially there were just some people who had the background from insurance. And then they hired like 2 or 3 developers, and then they started. That's how it started, basically. Those 2 and 3 developers, one of them the CTO today, and they are still working for the company. Then in 2017, they grew to 100K customers. So starting off from scratch, one of the things I would say is that insurance market in Italy is a very sort of like old school market. It's not like here, car insurance. So it's a car insurance company, obviously. And car insurance is like you go to an agent to buy insurance, and that's the same agent that your grandfather went to. And that's how it goes. So your family has got this person, you always go and buy insurance. But Prima was doing insurance online, much like the UK pattern. So that's why they were new in the market. They're kind of disruptors there. Initially, it was obviously teething issues, blah, 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 and all of that. But one of the things that stood out is old school insurance, what I call old school. I would say, your Admirals, AXAs, and all those guys, they were already in that market, They were operating for years in that market when Prima started. The difference was, as we know with all these giants and big companies, is that it is so much red tape that to move anything and to move faster is like horribly slow. Everything is. I remember I worked for AXA as well. Now I can I can say from experience that even to do a small release, we had to do like weeks of paperwork. And it was in the end, it was just like, there you go, release. But it was just paperwork of paperwork. So they were very slow moving, and Prima used that to their advantage because we could respond to the market changes much quicker and change our pattern and all of that and build our tech stack and stuff like that. In 2018, got 100 million investment because of all of the great promise of what we were doing, and also customers were responding, and we were doing really, really well. 2022, 4 million plus customers. And so you can see the trajectory, like it's just the success of this company in Italy was absolutely massive. And in 2022 is when the company decided, okay, we are going to expand in like a country a month. So we're going to go all over Europe, and this is going to go crazy. One of the things I would say is the characteristics of Prima is this like huge sense of entrepreneurship. So in the people, they believe that they can do something. Prima was the biggest success story at this point. After the 100 million investment, it became the only tech startup in Italy to get that much of investment. It is one of the biggest investment they got in the entirety of Europe. So it's a huge success story for Italy. And also, it became the first Italian unicorn and valued at $2 billion. Currently, over $2 billion is the valuation of the company. And so, while the unicorn is dancing, don't get too distracted by it. So the thing I want to talk about is how they were building the tech. So behind the scenes, what was happening. One of the things, obviously, there was less of this red tape. People could experiment and all of those great things we think about startups. And there is some other things we also know in those cultures, what tends to happen. I'm wondering whether we have any ideas in the room about when you're moving fast, when you're building and you're responding to change, and when you've got a bunch of devs who don't care about anything, there is no red tape, there is literally no process, nothing stopping you. What can happen to your systems at that point? Tech debt is my favorite thing at the moment. Yeah. What else? Bugs. Yeah. You're shipping code, which is probably not the best code in the world, but you're shipping it because for you to respond to change is a bigger thing than shipping out high quality code, right? No structure, yeah, because, and imagine what happens to documentation. Do you think you're writing documentation as you're building those systems? No. So basically, it is there, okay? So our dream was like, now we're going to expand globally. And the investor said, we want you to open in a country a month. So next year, you need 12 new countries. So we started off thinking, all right, let's go UK, let's go Spain. Spain is a very similar market to Italy. UK is a very different market, however, much bigger car insurance market. So we wanted to like, well, if you can make it successful here, obviously online insurance, all of that kind of stuff, much more chance of success. But imagine a system that is built that way. Do you think we'll be able to scale those things? It's a huge problem there. You cannot scale those systems. When we looked at that code, obviously all of those things that were actually our asset going forward and hitting the market in Italy and making such a huge success was a big pain going for expansion globally. We couldn't. The answer was no. We went back to them and said, we cannot expand. And they were like, that's not an option. Who said you can say no? You have to expand. So we said, okay, can we just expand in 2 markets then? Spain, which is very similar to Italy, maybe we could lift and shift what we have in Italy, launch in Spain. And in the UK, we could maybe start building from scratch. And so we decided, because like our systems look like this. They were monoliths because there was only one massive service that was doing everything end to end, from the time the customer comes in, customer experience, all the way to when you make a payment. One service, one microservice. Somebody calls it micro. It's not a microservice. It's a service, but it's like a huge monolith. And even when they were like, oh yeah, but we've got 2 microservices, but they're not really. They're like sort of, you can call it a distributed monolith, but that's the kind of amazing architecture we had. Too many MVPs. I mean, we've forgotten what the P was. Like everything was just minimum viable. Whatever we could ship out, we would do it. And then you put sticky tape solution on top of that, on top of that, on top of that. And then at the end, it got to a point where the business was like, can we launch this? Like, okay, so the most ridiculous one is, can we add 2 fields to the front end of this application? And you're like, yep, 3 months. And what do you mean? That's because it's in a PHP monolith. It has to have a full release of the entire solution. So many other systems will have to completely halt to add those 2 fields. So this is the kind of technical debt you're talking about there. And they tried to do strangler fig because like some dreamers were there. You know, they're like, let's try and strangle this monolith. And what they decided to do was, okay, let's build some stuff in a different service and then link it back to the main database. And what happened was, obviously, they never finished it. So now we have 2 monoliths, one written in Rust and another in Python. And they're talking to the same database that is very confused about what the hell is happening. And people abandoned it because they're like, who's got the time to do this now? So Strangler Fig completely gone wrong. That's the fantastic tech stack we had. And everything is, there's nothing async. Because nobody thought async in that time. They were like, oh, it just happens like that. Because you start with the simplest use case. This is what happens. And you don't think about what is going to happen when complexity is added to it. But the thing was happening, Primo was growing at a huge rate. And the idea of how do you scale systems was never asked because they never thought they're going to be that successful. They just thought, oh yeah, we'll give it a good go. We'll go out there. But it's just like, oh goodness, we are a tech unicorn and everybody's saying Prima is like a huge success story. We're in the newspapers. We are everywhere. And then we're like, okay, can't replicate our success because we cannot scale. So that's where our story started of saying, okay, they brought in a new CTO, got a lot of people in, and they decided, you know, the CTO obviously was a very experienced guy, and he was like, I know about domain-driven design. I think we should look at the insurance problem that way. And this talk is not actually about architecture. This is about what we did in that whole transformation. So now you understand where we were. And he was like, okay, what we're going to do is that we're going to figure out how we can launch at least in Spain and in the UK. And the only way to launch in Spain and UK was we built these systems again. Because there is no way we could have just lifted and shifted anything, because the Italy system would not scale. So what they did was they started 2 startup companies, one in Spain and one in the UK. They hired people and they said to them, look, this is an amazing startup, you can do whatever. And what happened? This story repeated exactly the same way. We ended up with 3 different countries with massive monoliths, technical debt, and so amazing, right? And because one of the big thing was, like, if you repeat the same story, give people the same problem and the same environment and say, oh yeah, it's a startup, do whatever, we just need to hit the market. We hit the market, okay. Now is the problem. They're like, okay, now, how many countries can you go now? And we're like, can't go any, because we'll have to redo everything again. So they're like, you're going to build this whole system a 4th time to go to Germany? And we were like, yeah, we'll have to build everything again because nothing is reusable. And so this like huge thing came. So the CTO who joined us at that moment, he came in and he was like, okay, we need to globalize things because otherwise this is going to be crazy, because we are going to otherwise build local solutions for every country we grow in. And that's super expensive and we're making the same mistakes again. So domain-driven design to the rescue. We thought, okay, let's go domain-driven design because we look at the whole domain of insurance as one and then figure out, and there are several benefits of it. Everybody knows about them. He made everyone in the department read that book because book reading is very important when you're building practical system. That was meant to be a sarcastic comment. But anyway, all of these benefits are there. There is no doubt. But what he also did is, like, from December, we are domain-driven design organization, okay? Now, I'm interested in whether people have heard of, well, okay, so let's talk a little bit about what kind of general structure under the insurance we did. So conversion, meaning like your sales funnel, attracting people, bringing them in. Pricing, how we price them. Obviously, for car insurance, pricing is very important because you always buy the cheaper one. Customer management, payments, accounting, intermediaries. And there are a whole bunch of other systems called platform-based stuff that goes across that. But these were the general domains that we identified that these would be. But remember I told you that about the tech stack. What tech stack do we have? We have 3 monoliths, 3 huge monoliths in 3 countries, okay? And we are now saying this is what we want to do, okay? And has anybody heard about Conway's law? Yes, okay. So we know that according to Conway's law, organizations who design systems are constrained to produce designs which are copies of the communication structures of these organizations. So basically, our organization structure was in country-based, one team builds everything. Now we wanted to go to DDD. So naturally we thought, let's do something the inverse Conway maneuver. So let's change the structure of the teams so that design follows, okay? So if we want to have that design that I showed you, that kind of like this structure, because we have a monolith at the moment, this is all just one big blob. Let's design our structures so that we end up there, okay? That was a huge disaster. Because what we ended up doing is we went in full throttle. This is Prima way. You go in, all in, okay? They went, okay, from tomorrow, we are domain-driven. You guys, you only do conversion. You do only pricing. You do only payments. And the teams are like, but it's one application. I mean, why? And so what happened was people had to fight over lines of code. Because like, this is my line of code. This is your line of code. And so this created this huge problem where we split people and we thought, well, our systems would naturally follow. But what we didn't realize is that if you're already in a monolith, regardless of what you do with your team, it's not going to just follow like that. So what we did was we created these artificial boundaries or enforced the boundaries between people who were sitting together working on a system, and we actually turned them kind of against each other and say this is a boundary between this line of code and that line of code. And we had people fighting over the ownership of things. And so instead of evolving that, we basically were stepping on each other's toes, trying to find our way through these systems. We stayed like that for a year and a half. The business sort of got to a halt. We did not expand in a single more country. Still in Spain and the UK was the only other two countries. And whenever there was a change, it was even slower than it was in the monolith, because people were saying, okay, the business was not able to keep up because we were slow in everything, because we basically changed everything. So inverse Conway maneuver, one thing to remember about it is that we need to also think about the architectures we currently have and what are the steps to evolve them, because communication pattern is only part of the picture. There's also the whole business attached to it, the whole business functions and the where they want to go and the market we want to respond to. And not just like you're not sitting in an isolated environment where you can say, okay, we change the teams and everything else changes. It is not quite so quick as that, because your system is almost a polar opposite force to our organization of people at that stage. So we did turn things around. And so I just wanted to go over some of the things that helped us turn those things around. And so what we decided to do, we were like, okay, we need to take a step back and understand what problem we have. Stop being overwhelmed by, okay, we've got to do this, we've got to just turn things, we have to become global, we have to think about what is the need of the business. So what do we need in order to keep the current markets going? So there is a need for understanding what is the nature of the requirements from the business. Then we need to understand what are the global opportunities, what are the common elements that we might be able to either extract or produce, which can be used further on. So solve that as a different problem, so that we're not stopping the business from moving ahead. And then approach people according to that, the resource, the solution to the problem according to that. And map out your team topologies. Like, I mean, come on, you can't go from one team that does everything to only platform teams without anything stream aligned. So if you guys are familiar with team topologies, if you're not, then you can talk to Rich Allen there. But yeah, the thing is, we never did that exercise. We never really understood the nature of the teams, the nature of the work, the requirement that was actually done. We just thought, okay, this sounds like a good thing, and we moved everything according to that. And then ask yourself what you're optimizing for. What is it that you're actually trying to solve? We were lost there because we had a lot of those monolithic systems, and at that point we were optimizing for speed to respond to the market. But then when we were architecting solutions further on, we were like, okay, we want to optimize for a certain thing. So we want to optimize for the best, quickest way to release tariffs so that we are able to give the best price to the customers. Is that what we are optimizing for? The rest of the systems then have to respond, because that's the priority for us. But we had no direction when we started this change. If you don't understand why you're doing the change, then you will always be lost and you wouldn't have a steer towards that. So we decided to do that, which helped us. And evolve the team structure and architecture together. Let's say philosophically, I like the idea of the inverse Conway maneuver. But practically, you have to see how your systems are and then evolve team structures with it, instead of just jumping in and then trying to say, oh yeah, we will do that, and then everything else would follow, because normally it doesn't, and it causes chaos. And obviously experiment, evolve, fail, learn, repeat, and we did a lot of that. The thing that is still great in Prima, which really helped us, is the quick turnaround time. There's still no red tape. So if you want to say, okay, let's experiment with this, it's working. No, it's not working. Let's change. But that thing can be used it's a huge asset when you're trying to change course or find your way again. And in the end, I want to show you a picture of this team. Because inverse Conway maneuver, our Conway's law itself as well, I know that we will always talk about it in the context of systems we built, but it is actually about people instead of about the systems we're building. Both systems that we build and the people who work on them are so intrinsically linked that we cannot ignore this factor. And the reason why there is this team is because it makes me so sad. These guys are absolutely fantastic team, but they were a part of a global team that was not, we didn't think it through. We put them in a global team and their path was a really, really tough one. And in the end, we had to split the team because we had to basically create a stream-aligned team and they went in there. But these guys are absolutely fantastic. And I think that a lot of the times when we are making changes in architecture, we completely ignore the fact that teams and people would be directly influenced by the changes we make. So the last thought is, don't forget that you're influencing people and you are going to have an impact on their team and on their work experience when you're making architectural changes. One is not independent of the other. And that's it. Thank you.
So does anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
What architecture actually we end up with? It's still 3 monoliths, or it's rebuilt to microservices? Or?
Yes, so basically we started looking at different areas. Like I said, if you're looking at optimizing for pricing became, okay, what are the systems we have in the monolith? And then in some cases we thought, okay, we're going to extract out because it's global element and can be shared between 3 countries. So that is one part, whereas one might be a platform team that is working on that. And then there are some stream-aligned teams who are working with the businesses to make sure that they're still reactive to change. So they're much more delivery focused. And then in the end, you have some systems that are rewritten, some systems actually still existing in the monolith. And the idea was that we're not trying to radically change anything there. We're trying to make it so that we are able to create and achieve the ambition without saying, okay, let's just bin everything and start from scratch, because we've done it 3 times now. We can't do it again.
Like as a consequence, when we try to launch in Germany, for example, it will still build another monolith, or you will try to build microservice system.
Yes,
So
so
all this experience.
yes, so basically, if I were to start in a new country, I would say there are a lot of systems that the platforms would be built so that they can use that. There will still be elements that are country specific, because insurance markets will always have local elements. This is also another important lesson we learned out of this experience, is that because you have to imagine these guys were, like, apart from a couple of people who are the founding members, they were not insurance people, they were tech people, right? So tech people don't think about, oh, what does insurance market actually look like? Locally, every insurance market is very, very different. So there are always going to be systems that are truly local, and we have to accept that. But there are some systems that can be global. For example, the way we handle data platform. We are building a data platform that enables us to build better data pipelines. That is common between all countries. So you have to understand what commonalities are and try to build the platform based on that.
Time for
Yeah.
one more.
Okay.
Whilst you were making lots of changes, how bad was your employee churn?
So this is a very good question. In certain areas, it was really bad. We had whole teams who basically walked out because of this whole global approach. Because you can't turn things around in, like, say, 2 weeks. Now your identity is completely different.
It sounds like you started with a top-down approach.
Yeah.
And then switched it around and asked the teams what they wanted to do and went bottom-up.
Yeah.
And that probably stopped employees from leaving, because then they have...
Yeah, I mean, overall, I would say, so basically, I would say the teams most affected were let's say the infrastructure teams, because their remit completely shifted from one time to another. In terms of domains, there was some frustration around the boundaries and stuff, but apart from that, we were able to retain people. I mean, Prima, one thing about Prima is that Prima is a very good employer in the sense of looking after and money. And competitive in terms of all the benefits as well. So retention is actually very, very good. People don't want to leave. And also, you have to remember, 95% of the workforce, actually, numbers are 85% of the workforce now is in Italy. It is a huge pride of Italy. This is a company people seek out because this is the first Italian unicorn. It's a huge success story for them. So they wanted to stay there. And I think one of the things is that they wanted it to be successful. So there was a lot of back and forth, like people were not giving up. And the reason why the company at like top level, C-suite level, decided to turn things around, they basically fired the CTO as well, but turn things around is because they listened to their people. Because they were like, this is not making our workforce happy. So let's change it. So it's like everybody was like, okay, we have to start. We have to start again. We have to move back. We have to think about what we're doing wrong. So that's a huge quality of a company.
Thank you.
All right.
So we're running out of time. I just want to take you through a couple of other things before we finish up. So the next Women in Technical event is week after next, called Digitize, Develop, Disrupt. Down at the Foundry in Poole. There's a STEM for the young kids as well. If you've got kids, come along. I'll be there with my little kid. Then the next dev.talk event is at end of February 26th. We are very close to selling out. So if you want to come and you haven't got a ticket, I suggest you get on. That one's already in. There's also lots and lots of other events in the local area. This is on our website, so you don't need to take it all in now. But these are events I keep hearing about in the local area. Tectonic is next week, and George, where's George? Where is he? There he is. George is going to be presenting at Tectonic next week. I know Bournemouth 2600, the cybersecurity one, they're also next week. And I think about 90% of those have an event in the next month. So check them all out. All the links are on the on our website, dev.talk.uk. Good. So this event runs because we have supporters like Reconnect and Patch to give us the room, but it's really important we also have speakers. Both Desmond and Seemin are part of our community, and they volunteered to be here tonight after some nagging, sure. But the only reason we can run these events is if we get speakers. So I encourage you to sign up for it to be a speaker. We help you brainstorm ideas. We'll do content reviews. We can even help you practice too. Your talks can be as short as 5 minutes or as long as 90 minutes. We'll make the agenda work for you. And on our website, there's a call for speakers form, which just gives me your contact information. It's no commitment there if you fill that in. But if you want to give it a try, I think this is a nice friendly place to do it. So try it. The other option is become a volunteer. Come and help. Come stack up the chairs. Come welcome check-in attendees, or even be tech support for the speakers, because I've seen to accept to that tonight. Come take photos. We're big in taking photos tonight. Help film the event. You can press record on the camera at the back. Somebody has to. We've got to maintain the website. If you look at the website, it's very, very basic. But anybody who's worked with me, and there are several in the room, will know how good I am at UI. Oh, Chris, hello. It is on GitHub. It's on a private GitHub, but if you're willing to help, then I can expose that. It's a...
Please help.
It is a HTML page. That is all it is, but it's become very big.
He's done some styling now. So
I have done some styling. Yeah, it's responsive. Check me out. That is the extent of my front-end skills. But also, perhaps you can help find the speakers. Perhaps pin down a friend who might want to talk. There are lots of ways to contact us. There's the email, there's Blue Sky. I like Blue Sky. So if you want a quick response, talk to me on Blue Sky. Dev.talk UK has its own Blue Sky account. It's not my account. We're also on LinkedIn, which is probably where most of you have heard it from. But LinkedIn's not very good at reaching out quickly to people. Quite often you see posts that are actually 2 weeks old. It's really hard to get current information. So something like Blue Sky is a lot better way of doing it. The other option is follow us on Eventbrite, because you get a notification when the events become available, which allows you to jump in before then LinkedIn tells you. The other one is I've just started a Discord server. That's a brand new thing for me. So anybody who knows Discord, come join us. There's me talking to myself at the moment in there. So,
I've HTML.
no, but, yeah, it's a brilliant server. Come join. You can all tell me how rubbish my HTML is. Yes, there's lots of ways to contact us. And when I say us, I mean me. Come talk to me, please. So the last thing really is about the Reconnect conference. You can see they're a supporter of ours. Seemin's here. She's one of the organisers of Reconnect. They've managed to tie down a really good speaker, Kevlin Henney, which I hope some of you know. He's an amazing speaker in the software tech world, and a huge name. Currently speaking at NDC London yesterday. Anybody ever been to the NDC conferences? No, I see an SDD t-shirt in the room, yeah. So you've probably seen Kevlin Henney speak at SDD. Yeah, so he's a massive win for Reconnect, and he's doing the keynote. It's July 4th. You all like QR code, scan that. That'll take you to the website where you can then jump to the tickets. And because you're all nice and because you all came tonight, if you can use the very secret discount code, which I'm not entirely sure you could have all guessed.
I mean,
You could have come up with something more cryptic.
oh, come on.
The dev.talk discount code, if you enter that on the Eventbrite checkout page, that'll give you a discount, which I think is 10%? 10%. It's only about 60 quid a ticket. It's a whole day conference. It's happening July 4th in Poole. I'll be there, and there's a small possibility I may actually be speaking as well. Whether that'll sway you either way, I'm not sure. That's it. Tickets sell out fast, so quick, get in there. There is a limited capacity. So thank you all for coming. It's amazing to see our community growing. This is our second event. We can see that there is a lot of want for this kind of thing. We had a wait list, a huge wait list for this event. We had a wait list for the last event as well. I'm trying to secure bigger rooms so we can have all those people come. So it's great to see the community growing, and you're all part of it. So thank you. So thank you all for coming.